Thank you.
Okay, so we can get started. My clock tells me it's 2:30. So next slide, please, Bruno. So I'm not going to spend too much time here as an introduction, but whether you're a contributor or a participant, as usual, please make sure that you read the note well carefully and understand it. Next slide, please, Bruno. So we have a very short or a very small agenda, I should say, not short, but we're going to have an update and the future plans of the design team, followed by a discussion of the draft that they've just released. I believe it's version 2 now, and then we'll open up the floor for discussion, which I hope is going to be most of this session. Next slide, please, Bruno. So just to level set everybody, the chairs of the Spring Working Group, we created a design team on the 7th of July, specifically to go and look at the subject of compression, or SRv6 over not SRv6, SR over IPv6 and compression, and we tasked the design team with two rather broad topics. The first was to come up with the requirements for solutions for compressing segment routing information for use over IPv6. And the second was to do a comparison of the proposed approaches that we've already got in terms of individual contributions into the working group, and present that information as input to the working group to be able to make some decisions on how we move forward with this work. Next slide, please, Bruno. We specifically asked the design team to work independently of the Spring chairs and of the Spring Working Group, and we did that deliberately because we wanted to make sure that they had the autonomy to go away and look at this subject with a fresh mind, and to come back and give us input into the working group. So they self-organized within their own charter, and the results of which was the draft that you see on the screen, although I believe it's version 2 now. We obviously want to thank the design team for the hard work. We know that they've been meeting more than once a week for the past few months. A lot of work has gone into this, and we're very thankful for taking up that work. Sander was one of the co-chairs along with Wei Chang. Sander had to step down as a co-chair on the 26th of October. Again, thanks, Sanders, for the work that you did. And with that, let's hand over to you, Wei Chang, without any more delay, and please carry on.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair. Could you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I think this is Wei Chang from China Mobile. I'm glad to report the status of the design team to working group on behalf of the team members. So next page. Here is some overview of the design team. I think the team was set up at this July. Now we have 8 team members. Chen Li from Huawei, Chong Feng from Chen Telecom, Darren from Cisco, Shao Fu from ZTE, Ron Bonica from Juniper, Sander from SGM, Wim from Nokia, and I from China Mobile. I think all the members worked very hard in past 4 months, and we had outputted initial version of a compression requirement draft. About the mail list of the design team, now it's private, but anyone can access the archive. It's public. And about the document for the internet draft, we put them to data tracker. For some other documents or meeting minutes, we put them to the GitHub link. This link is open for anyone. If you are interested in, you can access it for some our meeting minutes or some other document. About the meeting, I think typically we have a weekly e-meeting. In order to submit the requirement draft by IETF 109, in last 2 months, we run twice meetings per week. I think team members offer great efforts on the document. Those efforts ensured that we output the requirements draft on time. Here, I would like to thank all the team members. So next page. As just now, Charles mentioned, in fact, we have very clear scope for the design team. The design team is to produce some maybe rough consensus output to the working group related to 2 topics. The first topic is about the requirements for the solution to comprise the segment routing list, segment routing information for use over IPv6. And the second topic is a comparison or analysis of proposed approaches to comprising segment routing information for use over IPv6. Next page. I think working group chair also hope we can answer following 2 questions. One is whether several proposals already standardized. The other is whether is there value in picking one or some. This may be included in the requirements readout, but I don't think we have done something related to the questions in the design team. Of course, chairs also agree that if the design team can't agree or doesn't think it's helpful to report those aspects, that's also accepted for the working group. I think that is good for design team. Next page. So for the timeline, I think currently design team have a 2-stage plan. The first stage is during IETF 108 to IETF 109, and we hope to output a requirement draft. I think we have achieved that. The second phase during IETF 109 to IETF 110, we will do some analysis on several proposals and output an analysis document. Next page. So the progress of the design team is so far so good. We kicked off since the end of July, and we have had more than 20 meetings till now. We will submit the 00 and 01 version of the requirements. The link is shown in the page. You can review the requirement draft. We call for comments on that. And I've seen quite a few comments in the mail list. I think we will resolve the comments as soon as possible. Next page. Here is the overview of the requirement draft. I will skip this page since we will present the requirement document detailed soon. So next step, for the requirement draft, we hope to finish it soon. We hope to gather the comments from a working group in next 1 or 2 weeks and resolve those comments soon. And we hope to generate a new version by end of this December. And next page. For the analysis draft phase, I think the design team will provide a list of proposals to analyze. I think maybe in January of 2021, and we hope to submit analysis draft, maybe the initial draft to working group before IETF 110. That is the basic status and our rough plan for the design team. Thank you.
Okay, questions? Ron first. Others, please get on the queue. Ron, you're up.
Yeah, just one thing though, Joel. We still have another presentation, I believe, so please keep these comments to what you've just seen rather than specifically to the outputs.
Good point. These comments should be on this part.
Please go ahead, Ron.
One thing I'd like to add to what Wei Cheng said, I don't think he meant to say this, but the drafts that you're seeing today do not include all of the requirements that are under consideration. There are still a good many in the parking lot that are yet to be worked on. Would you agree with that, Wei Cheng?
Yes, I think I roughly agree with you.
Okay, Andrew.
Yeah. Hi. I'm going to try and keep this brief. But firstly, you started off in the presentation and you said that the design document was done. You then contradicted yourself and said sometime in December. Now, I've gone through that document in quite some detail, and I'm concerned, to say the least, that 6 months after we've started this, what I have in front of me is a document that steps outside of the charter in a couple of areas. I'm not going to go, my comments on the list about that. And the rest of it does nothing more than state the obvious. So my question to the chair is, do you really believe that this design team is going to come up with a proper design document in a reasonable time frame, considering that you are already over the time frame which was promised to this working group? And do you believe that there will ever be consensus within that design team, considering that you have had a chair already quit the design team and state publicly that it is because the vendors are ignoring the operator requirements? So what is the chair's opinion as to where this is really going to go?
Andrew, Wei Cheng, before you respond, Andrew, I have a couple of comments. The first comment is it's not been 6 months, it's been 4 months. So let's get that right. And the second thing is this is a requirements document, not a design document. Wei Cheng, please go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Chair. So I think design team here is trying to give some output, and I think we hope to help working group to get a correct direction for the technology. And as you just mentioned, in fact, I don't know when we can get agreement in the working group. We make those plan just to guide the design team to work high efficiency, because we have to set some target. But all those drafts we submit to working group, that is just the individual draft. That means we still need the strict procedure. I mean, the review and comments and modification, and to achieve rough consensus in working group. So I think we don't. I'm not intended to say we have get agreement or we have get consensus in our design team. Then the working group should accept those draft. We just give some basic output.
Yet more than a week after comments were sent to the list and a detailed analysis of that document, I have seen zero response from the team to any of the comments submitted.
I would like working group chair can answer give some comments.
I would hope, I can't tell, none of the chairs are going to tell the design team how to deal with the comments. We hope you will be taking into account all the comments received on the list and engaging with people on the list, and then going and continuing the design team process. As you said, you expect to finish to do another revision, and we hope that will reflect discussion so that there's a better chance that the working group will adopt the result. But we need to move on. So, Ahmed.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It seems. I mean, in my opinion, it seems like the best way to go for this is to lay out the requirements and have the working group decide, because as it was mentioned, it seems has been a long while and there is no consensus within the design team to agree on what the requirements are. The second point that I'm trying to make is about Appendix A, which is having existing standards included. In my opinion, that's very important. There have been many years and many, I would say thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of hours put to come up with these standards, and just putting them aside, I don't want to say throwing them away, would not be a good idea. I would think that the existing standards should be included as part of the metrics when we choose one or more of the designs. Thank you very much.
Greg?
Thank you.
I apologize. I sent my comments just recently, so I'm looking forward for discussion. But one general question and concern that I have, and that was highlighted both in Chair's introduction and Wei Chang presentation, that the design team was chartered to set requirements for compressed SIDs, segment routing identifiers in IPv6 network. And as I gather from the title and abstract of the draft of the document currently available, it's only settled on SRv6 compressed. So it does appear that their charter is broader than the scope of the document. And I'll appreciate a comment from Wei Chang and, if possible, from the chairs.
Well, I can comment from a chair's perspective, and Bruno and Joel, please pipe up as well if you have anything. But from our perspective, Greg, we wanted to make sure that the design team had the autonomy to go away and make their own decisions, and we gave them, as you know, a task to look at segment routing compression over IPv6. Now, if that design team comes back and they have a consensus that the base of the requirements that they want to put out is SRv6, then they need to justify why that's the case. On the other hand, I think I saw in the document that there was also discussion about other solutions, and I think the design team can make some comments on that, because at least from our perspective, we hope that they've looked at all possible solutions to make those requirements.
Well, again, I would appreciate if the design team did follow the charter. And yes, I agree with you. If they decide that some aspects of the charter must be outside the scope of the document, there needs to be a very technical discussion about it and very strong arguments. Because what I sense is that their disconnect within the design team might be related to this change of the scope.
Okay, thank you, Greg. I don't think there's more that the chairs can say at this point. Darren, you're next.
Yeah, I think we should let Wei Chang continue with his next presentation. Still a lot of content to go through. We haven't seen that yet. And if I can speak to Greg's comment, I think a lot of what he said is answered in that next presentation, or at least will give the rest of the audience the context it needs in order to hear the answers to that. There's also a few things that I dispute from previous conversation, but I'm sure that they'll be repeated again and we'll have that chance.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think we should do the next one.
Cheng Li.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Chung. We can hear you.
Okay, cool. So regarding the requirements, I think we are really hardworking, right? Basically, we have more than twice meeting in some weeks, right? So if someone is disappointed of the progress, I really like they can make some contribution to the design team if they want. But I'm not really sure that it will help or not, but it doesn't matter. And regarding the name, we did make some discussions of the name of the draft. So it is consensus of among the design team, and actually we can discuss it again if you want. We can make it in the mailing list. Yes.
Okay, discuss at this point, things have been said enough. Discussion of the scope of the document should probably come after the next presentation. Chongfeng.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Chongfeng of Telecom. Since SRv6 has been defined in a series of RFC and working group documents, and also has been deployed in some operators, for example, in telecom in several scenarios. So from standpoint of network migration, I think that a new future compressed solution should be SRv6 based. I think that this should be considered as a basic requirement. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Lu Wei.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. All right. So I have 3 general comments. My first comment is I want to thank the design team. We're really grateful for you taking the time and doing this. So anything you hear, if not real negative, is really trying to get things right. So appreciate it. Second comment is the requirements. I've seen general requirements and I looked at it. I don't know if we, if it's looking at it even per use case. A lot of the technologies we deployed in the past, were use case driven, requirements were use case specific. I don't know if, maybe I didn't read it, so I'm guilty here, but when I scanned through it, I noticed that the requirements are, lumped into one bucket, in different areas, but it's all under one umbrella. And I don't know if per use case might be more beneficial. That's something the design team can look at. The third thing is, we have to be ready for the outcome. If there's consensus, great. If there's no consensus, what do we do? So that's something we need to think about. We don't want to wait for the last minute and start, shoveling and, doing other stuff. So let's be ready. If there's consensus, we're all, it's a win-win. If it's not, we need to go forward and figure out what to do. And that's something we need to think about up front. I'm good. That was my comments. Thanks.
Before we continue, we need to cut this queue. We should have said something sooner because it's clearly too long when we need to get on to the next presentation. So Andrew, I'm sure you have more to say. Can we ask you to please wait until after the next one, but we'll let Vim, who's on okay, Vim's pulled himself off. KO, you get the last word for now. We'll do the next presentation and then we'll open it up to the floor.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
I'm going to keep it very short. I have 3 comments or 3 points to make. One is thank you, design team, but hoping to really see some consensus. B, the draft needs work clearly. Everybody has said, I don't need to enumerate on that. Please get the draft in shape. And 3, I look at the appendix. I look at some of the requirements. And to Louis' point, if there is no consensus, I want the working group at least to know we at Arcus have running code on a solution that is based on SRv6, and minimally we like to see that move forward. Happy to see if there are other solutions, but that is the solution we are working towards. Know that design team, you guys are working on it, which we always appreciate, but we have a working code and we like to see a consensus soon. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wei Ching, Bruno will now bring up the other presentation and you can then go through that. And we will take questions on this presentation at the end of the presentation. So you can put yourself on the queue whenever you like, but we're not going to start taking questions until he's had a chance to go through it.
Yeah, and Wei Cheng, if you could try to be as quick as you can, but just bearing in mind we've got about 30 minutes now, so we want to make sure we have some time for discussion.
Yeah, okay, I will. Okay, so next page. I think this document focuses on the requirement. Like next page. Yeah, and just now someone asked if there are use case or something like that. I think this figure here shows the packet header with SIH. It's obviously if a strict path TE is deployed, the seed list will be too long. An example. 8 hops will take about 128 bytes seed list more. There are several proposed methods to reduce the resulting SRv6 encapsulation size by compressing the seed list in the working group now. So I think some use cases have been provided in the working group already. Next page. So here's the overview of the requirement draft now. There are 3 aspects of the requirements: SRv6 seed list compression requirements, the SRv6 specific requirements, and the protocol design requirements, as well as we had an appendix which included some requirement items without unanimous consensus within design team. The figure, the items with red flag is those which we have been agreed. The one with the green flag are those without unanimous consensus within design team. Next page. So let's go. Next page. Firstly, is about the encapsulation header. I think obviously this is a basic requirement. It requires a solution to reduce the size of SRv6 encapsulation header. Next page. So forwarding efficiency, and we would like to record the number of the headers parser during the processing of the segment list, and the number of the FIP lookups during the processing of a segment list for different proposals. Next page. So the state efficiency, we hope the compression solution should minimize the amount of the additional forwarding state stored and node. Next page. Yeah, for the seed list length, the compression mechanism must be able to represent SR paths that contain up to 16 segments. I think this requirement we had a lot of discussion, and there are some input from different operators. Then we think 16 segment is enough. Next page. So for the seed summarization, I think summarization of a segment is a key benefit of SRv6 compared to SR-MPRS. So in the in-domain deployment, any node can reach any other node through a single prefix segment. Without summarization, border router seeds must be leaked, and additional global prefix segment is required for each domain border. So we, the design team, think this is a necessary requirement. Next page. So for the lossless compression, of course, the comprised seed list must be equivalent to the original seed list. For example, a strict PAS-TE cannot be comprised to a loose PAS-TE seed list. So next page. So for the urgency segment scale, now we hope it can be capable of 65 key urgency segments per node. But typically, maybe network operators deploy network with such as tens or hundreds of urgency segments per node is enough. But for some corner case, we really need a large urgency segment list. Next page. For the prefix segment scale, I think we hope the compression mechanism can be representing 1 million prefix segments. Of course, for the typical application scenario, we may need to deploy network with thousands of prefix segments. But we have to meet the corner case requirement. Next. For the service scale, similar to the other two, the compression mechanism must be able of representing 1 million service per node. Next page. This is for the SRv6 based coexistence. So we hope the compression solution can support deployment in existing SRv6 network. So this figure shows the application scenario. The path maybe only support the original SRv6 or compressed SRv6. It will not mixed in one pass. Okay, next page. So I think the next several pages is some requirement items with a rough but not unanimous consensus. And we hope to get more comments from working group wide, and any feedback are appreciated. Next page. I think firstly, we would like to point out the design team is always open for any proposal when we prepare the requirement draft. Here we list two targets. One target is that it's a goal of a design team to identify solutions to SRv6 seed list compression that are based on SRv6 standard. And we also are open for a goal of design team to consider proposals that are not based on the SRv6 data plan and the control plan. So next page. So I've seen quite a few comments for this item. The description is that a solution to comprise SRv6 seed list should be based on the SRv6 architecture, control plan, and data plan. I would like to point out that we are using the word should instead of a must. So even this item agreed by the design team, that doesn't mean by closing the door to any other proposal. Next page. Oh, yeah. So this one is about the SRv6 functionality. The description like that, a solution to comprise the SRv6 seed list must support the functionality of SRv6. This requirement and a set of metrics is meant to access whether a proposal that is not fully SRv6 based, as evaluated in session SRv6 based, provides equivalent functionality to SRv6. Such a proposal may utilize different control plan or data plans. So I think there are some concerns on these items. I think we call for more comments on that. Next page. So for the heterogeneous seed list, we hope the compression solution can support a combination of a compressed and the original segment in a single pass. So this is a little bit different from the requirement item we just mentioned for the coexistence item. This allowed one pass can go through both compressed and non-compressed segments. Next page. I think all the items we have finished. So we will skip the next step because we have discussed it in last presentation. That's all. So any question? I would like it to sorry, Chair. I would like to say that because the design team, we have 8 different members. This output, I mean, my meaning is that this draft have agreed by the design team. So I think some questions may be answered by the design team members. So yeah, let's go.
I think it will be fine.
That's fine. Yep.
Okay, so I guess we now open the floor. Greg?
Yes, thank you. Okay, I don't want to repeat my comments. Actually, I inadvertently misunderstood. I commented only on what is marked as a full consensus, but I will go add my comments to other part of the draft. What I want to point out that I get an impression that the requirements are centered for the brownfield deployment scenario of the compressed seed solution. I think it's regrettable that the greenfield scenario being omitted. And I will encourage design team to look from the point of view of the greenfield deployment of the compressed seed scenario. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will ask everybody to please be concise because we're running out of time. John.
Yeah, thank you, Judith. Yeah.
I just wanted to say I was surprised to see the forwarding efficiency requirement listing a number of headers parsed as being a metric. That seems self-evidently wrong to me. In that I would much rather parse, 3 very simple headers rather than 1 very complicated header. That's all.
Thank you. Satoru?
This is Satoru speaking.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the make this draft. All requirements are good, but especially I impressed that the requirement on the appendix side, because one of the operator who already deployed SRv6 in the wild, and SRv6 base, SRv6 functionality, and heterogeneous set list, it's really important for us. So please make sure that the older appendix requirement to be the normative part of the requirement. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Bob?
Yes, thank you. So I wish I had slide numbers so I could tell you which one I'm going to ask about. But the slide that was titled SRv6 base coexistence, I having trouble, and I read the draft too, and there's a section about this, but I don't really understand what this means. It says the compression solution must support deployment in existing SRv6 networks. Well, can you elaborate on what that means?
Bob, this is Darren. If it's okay, I can answer this one. Wei Cheng, is that okay?
Go.
Oh, thank you. And thank you. In this picture, you're seeing 2 SR paths. One of them is depicted by solid lines. It has only 1 routing mechanism in it, the SRH with classic SRv6 SIDs. You see another SR path depicted by a dotted line. It has the compression mechanism in it, whatever it is. What we're saying is that node 3, it has to be possible for node 3 to support both, but not in the same packet.
Okay, good. Thank you. That helps.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. Darren?
Hey, hopefully folks can hear me. Bob, we'd also called this ships in the night deployment at one point, but thought that was maybe too not interpreted the same by everyone. So hopefully that clarifies it. A couple things for the rest of the comment, just on the time it's taken to produce this. I just want to remind people that we are going through a pandemic and things are very tough for people. A lot of people took most of the summer off during the last several months. So the design team started really in earnest in September. And I just want to highlight, there's been like many hours of work put into what we've got here. And I think that we've got a good start and some great requirements in here that reflect where the design team is coming from and the operators and people that we have contact with within the team. The second point on questions around association with SRv6, I just want to call out that when we look at what we are compressing SR information. It's been defined in the ask from the chairs, and that SR information we're compressing has been called out in one of the first slides as the SRv6 SID list. So if we didn't have that current solution to compress, then we wouldn't actually be compressing anything. So that's where it's important that we identify in this draft that it's actually that SRv6 SID list that we are compressing. I also want to point out that the draft specifically, if we read past the first page of the draft, defines explicitly that we are considering solutions with the current existing SRv6 data plane and building requirements for that, and considering solutions with new control plane and data planes and building requirements for those as well. So I just wanted to call that out before there's more comments on that topic. I think if folks read the whole draft, you'll see that, especially the text in the appendix that Wei Cheng pointed out.
Okay, let's try to keep it moving. Ron?
Okay, I think Greg Mirsky hit the nail on the head in his very first comment when he came to the mic at the beginning of the meeting. The question is really about what is the charter of the working group? Are we here to compress segment information for an SR over IPv6 solution, or are we here to compress the SID list as it lives in the SRH? And that can be restated. Are we here to optimize behavior for deployments that already use the SRH heavily, or are we here to equally keep in mind the greenfield point that's going to happen after the compression mechanism is specified? Here,
Ron, one comment here from Jim is, it seems to me that we're here to work on requirements for what needs to be compressed. And if the design team make a decision that, well, it's really the SRH that needs to be compressed, there's no other thing out there, whether deployed or not, that needs to be compressed, then clearly that's where you would focus. So I think I would word it that, look at what needs to be compressed in, these existing headers and work from there.
Okay. Vim,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I wanted to call out two things basically. First of all, I think right now, at least I've been part of the design team, and the way you should read the requirements is that we are actually going for both green and brownfield, because there is a set of requirements specifically that built upon SRv6, but and there is a set of operators who want to actually see that happening, and that's why they are in the requirements document. But I also want to point out that we haven't done the analysis yet. So what we are doing at this stage is building upon a requirements document that is generic enough to cover both greenfield as well as brownfield. And then based on the analysis, we will see how certain solutions comply to this, because there is a different set of people wanting different things. And as a result, at this stage, we want to be open to actually cover all those different scenarios, right? The second thing I want to point out is the way we want to do the analysis, which we haven't discussed it yet, is that for some of these requirements, what we are going to do is build a set of use cases that on which we are going to analyze the different set of solutions that are out there, in order to then look at those things. And to comment on John's comment on performance and look up things, even that we had a consensus on how to do that, because we believe that certain fields, although the header might be complex, the lookups will determine the performance and the efficiency of how that implementation will scale. And that's why we have kept that requirement in it, because we believe it's valuable. Thanks.
Hello, Chen from Huawei.
Go ahead.
Yep. Yep. So first of all, I think I fully agree with Wim that we do include greenfield and brownfield as well in the document. That's the very important thing, right? The second point is that we do believe that the draft is not finished yet. We still have a lot of work to do, and in this meeting and after this meeting, yeah. So this answer to Andrew, and then the third one is that I think the requirement of compression comes from the overhead of SRv6C, right? So I think the name of the draft is appropriate, because we are going to say that we are going to solve the problem that came from the SRv6C. So we compress SRv6C, right? But we do not limit the mechanism to be like SIH based only. We do not do that, right? We're allowed to discuss multiple solutions based on SIH or not. And right now we are focusing on a very general requirement, which can be which can be supported by multiple solutions, right? So to me, the text is fine right now, and yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ching-Li. Tom?
Hi there, Tom Hill. I have I have a concern around the inclusion of what I believe is an inclusion of a requirement to mix compressed SIDs with uncompressed SIDs, or compressed SIDs of different lengths in the same header. I think that was one of the requirements that went in here. And I realize that that's noted as not being unanimous at the moment. My concern is that this doesn't seem particularly efficient from a forwarding plane perspective. And I wanted to point out that when the design team are looking at these requirements, I was hoping that they weren't looking at them in isolation, and they were looking at the broader solution and all of the requirements there, making sure that there wasn't any contradictory elements to that. This does seem particularly inefficient as a suggestion. Just a comment.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Andrew?
Firstly, I just want to agree with what Tom said. I really do think that is really inefficient. But I want to ask the chairs this. Firstly, my reading of this document, and maybe I'm wrong, but the references to SRv6 that are all over this, and yes, I've heard the comments before this, seem to me to tie this very much to SRv6 as in traditional SRv6 that we've seen up till now. If the design team cannot come to a consensus about that tie to SRv6 or not that tie to that SRv6, when are we likely to get that? And is the design team then prepared to say that anything outside of traditional SRv6 is out of scope and can be pursued outside of this entire process? Because I am deeply concerned, as I said in my previous comments, that 4 months in, And yeah, I know the pandemic, blah, blah, blah. The reality is that there are other solutions that have already shipped. They are in running code. And I am extremely concerned that this process is resulting in a situation where things are being developed outside of the auspices of the IETF because of the delays being created. And as a result, that damages the technical ecosystem because people are not going to stop developing. Certain of those solutions are going to go ahead. They are shipping in code today, running code in major vendors' routers. So the delays here, I need to know how long is this likely to take before we get a statement from this design team? Because right now, we do not have a design document. This is not a full design document. It is not even a requirements document. It has disputed sections all over it. And this is IETF 109, where it was told it would be presented. So my question to the design team is, how much longer? Because this and the delays that it is causing are forcing people outside of the auspices of the IETF.
I want to allow Wei Ching to respond, but I'm going to ask the other design team members not to respond to that, and unless it's really urgent to get off the line, because we have 4 minutes left, and I'd like to let folks who haven't spoken speak. So Greg, you may consider taking your comments to the list as well. But Wei Ching, you should respond to Andrew.
Yeah, so I think Andrew raised a very good question, and I think all the draft we are preparing is the first goal is to get correct direction for the for the design team, for the working group. And there are a lot of different solutions can be deployed. But in IETF, we have to give a clear suggestion to the industry which one should be adopted by the working group. So from my point of view, design team will do what we can as fast as we can. But the decision should be made by working group. Thank you.
Okay, Yisong. Go ahead, Yisong.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Firstly, I'm Yisong Liu from China Mobile. As an operator, from my point of view, I think for the compression solution, it is necessary to be compatible with the classic SR6 standard. Means that in the requirements, the compression solution should be SRv6 based. And secondly, I also hope the solution can be moved forward fast. Because in the China Mobile network, we really need to deploy SR6 compression soon. Finally, I thank for the design team the effort. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, Martin.
I'm thinking about the requirements that have been listed so far, and so far for me looks all good if you're in a greenfield approach with a single network domain or maybe a small number of network domains you have in mind. But I'm missing one for the brownfield approach, especially when you're in a large organization with many network domains, with a grown organizational structure, and you want to take advantage of SRv6 to consolidate all over those. And that is the effort for managing any new kind of SID number space. And from my experience with just introducing SRM-PLS to more or less a single network domain, this is a huge effort to manage some kind of new number resource. It has been solved so far for our simple SID number space, but it has been painful, and I believe it would be much, much worse if you really wanted to do it on so many network domains that you might want to consolidate on in a large organization. So I would like to see something like this added.
Thank you. I hope they will take into account the input. Huimo?
Yeah, what's the reason for a segment can be mixed of segment? Some part is compressed and some part is uncompressed. I think those should have some reason for that requirement, right?
Yeah, and we can take that one to the list, Waymo, because it's a long. I've heard the explanation. It's a long explanation. We don't have time for it now.
Okay.
Okay, Ketan, you're the last one. Thank you, folks, for being cooperative about the line because we're already over time.
Yeah, thanks for the design team, and I believe that we are in the requirements phase. Approach is coming later. Analysis of the approaches. What I would like to say is that while tackling the compression problem, which is really what's the focus on, the requirement should reflect fair and a full-fledged analysis, and not really lower the bar for what is already deployed and being evaluated for deployment with SRv6. So I'm hoping that we have a broad spectrum analysis of the requirements, even if some operators may like to probably focus on only one or two of them. Because in IETF we have a thing of building on what is existing. We keep introduce something, then we improve it, add features. I can understand, and it is, I think, natural for many participants to have that same feeling and same logic with on SRv6, and I hope everybody can appreciate that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ketan. Thank you, everyone. We need to continue these discussions on the list because we as chairs need to see what you guys think are important, and we encourage the design team to keep working towards the goals they've laid out and the timeline they've laid out. Thank you all very much. Daniel, did you want a last word?
Keep crapping out.
Thank you.
So thanks for the design team. By the way, there's quite a lot of hours put behind. I just wanted to stress one last point about the standardization that is key for scalability, as I already stated in the mailing list. So just make sure that it is still considered a compression solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. See you down the road.